Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving into one of the biggest debates in the entire history of Western philosophy. I'm talking about a genuine showdown over the very nature of reality, and it's between a legendary teacher and his absolute star student.
All right, so let's get right into it. The whole thing starts with this massive puzzle that just consumed the philosopher Plato. I mean, think about it. He looked around at the world, and what did he see? Constant change, right? Everything is unstable, everything eventually decays. So his big question was, how in the world can we find anything that's eternally true in a place where nothing seems to last? Well, to solve this, Plato came up with this brilliant idea he called the divided line. He basically sliced reality right down the middle. On one side, you've got the physical world, the one we see, touch, and hear. But for Plato, this is just a world of opinion, filled with flawed, decaying copies of things. But on the other side, that's the world of knowledge. It's a higher, non-physical reality, and it's home to the perfect, eternal, and totally unchanging ideas, which he called the forms.
And this right here is his grand solution, the theory of forms. The idea is pretty wild when you first hear it. He's saying that every single chair you've ever sat in is just a kind of shadow, a flawed copy of the one, perfect, ideal form of a chair that exists in that other, higher reality. And this doesn't just apply to objects. It goes for big concepts too, like beauty, justice, and goodness.
Now, what's so fascinating here is that this theory, it isn't just some side project for Plato. Not at all. You have to think of it like the central hub of a giant wheel. It's the core idea, and literally everything else he believed just stems directly from it.
I mean, every major piece of his philosophy is a spoke coming off that hub. You want to talk about his ethics? Well, that's all about striving to understand the ultimate form of the good. What about the human soul? For Plato, it's this immortal thing that's constantly trying to remember the world of forms it came from. And his politics? Oh yeah, that comes from it too. He famously argued that the only people fit to rule are the ones who truly get the forms, the philosopher kings.
And this way of thinking even shaped his view of history. See, because our physical world doesn't have that perfect stability of the forms, he saw politics as this tragic, endless cycle. You'd start with an honorable aristocracy, but that would rot and decay into a tyranny. That in turn would spark a revolution leading to democracy, which, by the way, he saw as just mob rule, and that would collapse into an oligarchy, ruled by the few. And then the whole thing starts over. In his mind, without the forms as an anchor, there's no real progress. There's just change and decay.
But then, enter Aristotle. He was Plato's star student, probably the most brilliant mind in the academy. And even though he had huge respect for his teacher, he started to see some massive problems with his whole picture of a two-tiered reality.
So Aristotle starts asking these questions that seem almost devastatingly simple, but they're incredibly powerful. His main beef was this. Okay, so if these perfect forms are totally separate from our world, off in some Platonic heaven, how do they actually interact with anything down here? What's the connection? How does a real physical chair participate in this perfect form of a chair? It just didn't make sense to him.
And he kept going. He argued that Plato's form of the good, this ultimate ideal, it was a nice thought, something beautiful to think about for sure, but it had no real power. It couldn't do anything. I mean, how could it possibly inspire goodness and order in our world if it's completely detached from it?
For Aristotle, it was just unbelievable that the blueprint for our reality could exist entirely outside of it. He had this killer example, math. Think about it. A physical object like a pyramid has mathematical properties. You can describe it as a triangle. The form of a triangle isn't floating around in some other dimension, it's right there in the object. And so he argued, look, if that's true for math, why wouldn't it be true for all forms? And this leads to Aristotle's really revolutionary solution. He essentially brought the forms crashing down to earth. He totally rejected Plato's transcendent forms floating in the heavens and instead argued for immanent forms. All that means is that the form, the essence of a thing, exists within the physical object itself. It's not out there, it's in here.
This big idea got a fancy name, hylomorphism. It just comes from the Greek words for matter, which is hyle, and form, morphe. For Aristotle, every single thing you see is this inseparable team-up of its physical stuff, the matter, and its structure or blueprint, the form. They're like two sides of the same coin. You can't ever have one without the other.
And once you accept that, it leads to his next brilliant idea. Because if the form is already inside the object, then every object has this built-in potential just waiting to be unleashed. Think about an acorn. It doesn't need to look up to some heavenly form of an oak tree for instructions. No way. The potential, the blueprint, is already packed right inside of it, driving it to become a fully realized oak tree.
This built-in purpose or end goal is what Aristotle called its telos. So the telos of an acorn is to become an oak, and the telos of a human being? It's to flourish by actualizing our own unique potential, especially our ability to reason. And just like that, purpose isn't some distant, perfect ideal anymore. It's embedded right here in the very nature of things, just waiting for us to discover it and live it out.
So you see, this one disagreement creates these two completely different paths, these two fundamental ways of seeing the world that have just echoed down through all of history. Plato tells us, look up, look away from this messy, shadowy world if you want to find eternal truth. But Aristotle says, no, look down, look into the world around you, study it, classify it, and discover the amazing purpose and potential that's already here.
So why does any of this ancient stuff still matter to us today? Well, it's because this whole debate really boils down to a fundamental question that every single one of us has to answer for ourselves. And it's all about where we find meaning.
Think about it for yourself. Do you find your purpose by striving for some perfect, transcendent ideal, something you're always reaching for but maybe never quite grasp? Or do you find it by looking inward and looking around you, by discovering and unlocking the potential that's already here, inside you and in the world? That's not just some old philosophical question. That is the powerful, living legacy of this incredible battle for reality.